So for our last story, we are looking at the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, actually getting bamboozled when it comes to their data center use. They had apparently rented out a data center from a company called AiNET, AiNET, run by Deepak Jain, who apparently created a fake tier 4 data center certification based on a made up certifier called Uptime. Let's see, what is it? Uptime
Council,
Institute is
Uptime
the actual
Council.
one. Yes. But yes, he made a Uptime Council and got away with it for a few years before facts finally caught up to him.
14 years. It is shocking on so many levels that they created this and did it. But what I found, you and I talked before we started the recording about, oh, the CIO must be in a lot of trouble. How do they not check this? Well, the first big check mark is if you are a CIO or if you are part of the procurement team and you are putting in a requirement that someone has a certification, you might want to check it, right? And not just
Right.
because obviously someone glanced at this and said that looks official, good to go. But part of the reason that they got away with it for this whole time is that a tier 4 certification is supposed to deliver 99.995% uptime. And according to the report, they never failed on it. So they actually did their job. They delivered, which makes this even more mind-boggling. It's like I just don't understand. It's like, so you had the ability to meet the requirement, you just didn't go get the piece of paper, and
Mm-hmm.
it just, yeah, I mean, it is absolutely mind-boggling to me that someone and this isn't just like a lost contract. He's going to jail, or at least that's what
At least going to
he's
court.
been
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
at least going to court, I mean, but they're going after him for a felony. I mean, this is serious stuff. I'm
Right.
just like bewildering.
Yeah, I never want to go to court having tried on charges of defrauding the United States. That usually does not end up well for anybody involved. And just looking at the Justice press release, Department of Justice press release, Jane orchestrated a years-long scheme to defraud the SEC by falsely certifying that his company's data center met the highest rating level when the actual rating did not satisfy the SEC contract. That is not what I want the US government claiming that I did. But I think, like you said, this is an important note that although we like making sure those check boxes exist, we still have to make sure that our lawyers and our security people are doing the dirty work of actually making sure that this stuff works correctly. And I think this is going to be even harder in a Gen AI world where it will be trivial to create the right language associated with certifications and to be able to say that our new fake organizations or pop-ups might match very similar sounding actual organizations that provide these certifications. So either that's a problem or that's a business opportunity, depending, I guess, on which side of the coin you look at.
It is scary easy. My brother and sister-in-law, my wife's brother and wife, have a property where they now have some grapes, and they're not great grapes, but they decided to make wine out of it. And so, on a joke, I went into OpenAI and ChatGPT and told it to create a wine label. And let me tell you, in the fake of like a fake Bordeaux thing, it did a pretty convincing job. It wasn't perfect, but I mean, it is not a stretch to think that you can very quickly start creating these fakes of whatever you want. And so, I have two big takeaways. One is if you're going to ask for the cert, check for it. Check it. Make sure it's legit. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up because it's not in here. But I'm quite sure the procurement team is in all kinds of hot water over this. It's a huge black eye. But secondly, I think that I've always had sort of a frustration with this in that don't ask for something if you don't actually need it, right? Don't limit yourself from a requirement standpoint. Understand what your actual requirements are. And this speaks to the fact that particularly in government, but frankly in most large enterprises, we end up with creating this way of just try to weeding people out, even though it doesn't actually help us get to who's going to provide the most value. I have no idea. I mean, the fact that he's willing to fake it probably means he wasn't a good person to be doing business with to begin with. But the point of it is that they went 14 years getting what was otherwise perfectly good service for them
Mhm.
without the certification that they claimed they absolutely needed to get quality service. So I think, I think every CIO needs to always be asking themselves, going all the way back to the value question, right? How do I generate value for the organization? And what is the minimum viable path to get there, right? Because that's how
Mhm.
I'm going to create the most efficient way of doing that. And anchoring around those principles. Otherwise, you end up with this. You end up with some guys faking a cert.
Yes, and I've definitely noticed that in IT contracts all the time, terms that are not contractually enforceable or would actually not be cost effective to enforce at all. And yet, enterprises put these in because they think they are covering their butt by putting these phrases in place. And actually, if they wanted to make sure that these things would be enforced, sometimes it would cost more to enforce them than the entire contract is worth in the first place. It, that makes no sense. There's no reason to put that level of contractual obligation into any sort of contract. And vice versa, if you're on the vendor side, you're putting in terms that are impossible to either meet or manage or support. Maybe that's a problem for you as well.
But if you are a vendor, we would like to officially announce here that H&C certification company will officially be launching next week. Any certification you need, we charge half of anybody else, and we won't even come and pretend to check anything. So we'll give you your cert, and off you go. We'll be in the Bahamas by next week.
Right. Just put it into our unmarked bills or directly to our offshore bank account, and it's all good.